Um, Thanks for joining again, and for those of you who will be viewing this at a later time, um, please go through this, and and when if you have more questions, you can reach out to us as well if you are not taking this online. Today we are doing a session on Knowledge V3. Knowledge V3 is what we call any changes to knowledge application after Fuji. With Fuji. And today we'll go through an overview of what Knowledge V3 is, what those changes are, and then we'll talk a little bit about the upgrade. So the agenda is, as I said, features in V3, upgrading to V3, and then we'll also talk a little bit about our upcoming sessions. This is Sarup Paul. I am the product manager for knowledge application at ServiceNow. With me is Eyal. He is the development lead for knowledge at ServiceNow. So with that, let's get going. So what is Knowledge V3? Starting Fuji, we made a lot of changes to knowledge, and we decided to call it as Knowledge V3 due to the significance of those changes. Actually, you don't need to do anything to get those changes, as in when you upgrade from a version that is lower than Fuji to Fuji Geneva and the upcoming Helsinki release. Those changes that you will see are going to be automated, and they are also mandatory. And some of our customers have given us a lot of good feedback, but they also had some challenges with the upgrade because some of these changes they were not aware of. So this is an effort from our side to make you aware of those changes prior to the upgrade. This will enable you to leverage the new capabilities such as multiple knowledge bases and such, and also smoothen the transition for your users. So, hopefully this information is valuable to you guys. So let's get started. So we'll do the Knowledge V3 features in Fuji, and then we'll do a little bit about the stuff that happened in Geneva as well. With Fuji, we started doing multiple knowledge bases. So prior to Fuji, you had only a single knowledge base. You manage all the content for all your departments in that knowledge base. Now you can have multiple knowledge bases with separate governance and all the good stuff. Each knowledge base can have its own configurable workflow, and as you will see, that does have its advantages when it comes to configurability. We moved on from the topic and category classification mechanism, which was a two-level mechanism hierarchy, to a multi-level categories. And we've also adopted user criteria in Knowledge V3. So we'll dive deep into some of these items in the subsequent slides. Starting with multiple knowledge bases. So as you can see, in your new knowledge homepage, you will see multiple knowledge bases if you have configured them. And each knowledge base itself has its own set of configurations, as you can see on the screenshot on the right. The typical use case that you will see is around governance of content or ownership of content in the various groups of the organization. In terms of ServiceNow applications, you have an HR app, facilities app, and others. So you want to have a knowledge base that is separate for those. But even within a group such as, let's say, IT, our most common use case, you may have separate groups or departments within IT, let's say securities, wanting to have their own ownership of content. So this knowledge base allows you to, a separate knowledge base for them allows you to do that. You can have separate workflows per knowledge base, so that will also allow you to have configurable workflows for each of those knowledge bases depending upon their own needs. Now this is something that with a single knowledge base you would have to write very complex workflows based upon a different parameters. This is much more simpler now. And then we have a multi-level flexible classification hierarchy that is categories, per knowledge base. So as the knowledge administrator or the knowledge manager for a particular department, you can define your own categories for that. So as a result of this categorization and the multiple knowledge bases, you will see some changes on the knowledge homepage, specifically the search results page that we're showing here. You will see the filtering for knowledge bases on the top left, like HR and IT. The categories that were defined at the knowledge base level, these are shown based upon the categories and not the topic and subcategories in the prior version 2. And so you will see that, and then also you have the ability to turn on author-based filtering in your knowledge base. You also, on the top right, you will see the default sort by relevancy, and then you can have last modified as well as most viewed. For user criteria, this is a concept that started on the platform, and with Knowledge v3, we brought it into the knowledge application. What user criteria does is allows you a more flexible segmentation of your users based upon groups, roles, departments, location. As you can see, you can define a set of users based on these parameters, and we call that as a user criteria. Subsequently, at the knowledge base level, you can apply those user criteria for different activities or permissions within the knowledge base. So as you can see, we have highlighted there, the user criteria can be applied for can read, cannot read, can contribute, and cannot contribute. I mean, these values and configurations are kind of self-explanatory. Basically, who can read, who cannot read, who can contribute, and who cannot contribute. However, if you have defined somebody can contribute, they also have the ability to read as well. So how does this get evaluated? So typically, both the read and contribute user criteria would be evaluated as follows. If you have admin role, KB owner, or KB manager role, by default you have access to all the content in the knowledge base. If you don't have that, then the first what we evaluate is the cannot. So if the user is covered under cannot, then they will not have access to the article. And then we evaluate if the user has access to can, and based upon that permission, they can have access to that content or not. So this is the typical evaluation, applies to both the read and the contribute permissions of within the knowledge base. So moving on, some of the features that we added with Geneva. Again, if you're going to Geneva, or you will have everything that was there in Fuji, obviously, and along with that, you'll have these 2 new features that we added in Geneva. First is social Q&A, and then the next one is import from Word. I'll do a quick one on each of these. So social Q&A is a way for you to enable crowdsourcing of your knowledge. The knowledge can also be there in your user community, and our idea is to make sure that the user community knowledge can also be captured into the knowledge base, which always may not be in the form of an article, but can be in the form of questions and answers. It's a way for you to augment your self-service beyond a centralized set of authors and your support core members writing articles. Your users can also write articles. They can do voting, which will influence how they show up in the search results. So by default, the social Q&A is searchable as a knowledge source, as you can see on the screenshot of the right. I think this is from the upcoming Helsinki release. However, you see that the search results can show questions. You can see articles as well as questions, and you can see both of them if you want to. So that's social Q&A. We are pretty excited about it, and we do have a pretty long roadmap as we go through this feature in the future releases. Import, this has been quite popular with our users. What it allows is to take a Microsoft Word document, drag it into your knowledge base homepage, and then it pops up an import dialog as such, and you can import that article into a specific knowledge base as an article with a category and as such. Uh, what it also does is it takes the file name, makes it the title, and then copies over the content of the body into the rich text part of the article. So pretty effective. So what do you need to know as you are moving to Knowledge V3? Like I mentioned earlier, the changes are automatic, which means that you don't need to do anything, but it's good to be aware of what changes are there as a part of the upgrade. The first change that happens is all your legacy content is moved to a knowledge base called as knowledge. And they still would be searchable, you would have access to them, all the good stuff. Your article view page gets replaced by a new article view page, and the existing article view page is renamed to kb_view_customer, and that page has all your customizations and all. You may decide to move some of your customizations into the new page as you need. Also, with Knowledge V3, the Knowledge homepage uses Angular, and that sometimes will have challenges with older browsers. So what we did was we added browser detection, and if the browser is not supported, we move them to the older UI. So you will see older browsers going to the older page. Typically, this is more impacted on IE than Firefox or Chrome. Best practices, these are some things that we suggest that you plan ahead prior to the upgrade. I mean, you can do your upgrade in a sandbox, but when you're doing in your mainstream, you probably want to think about these before you upgrade in those. Planning your knowledge base structure. So as we discussed, a knowledge base, can be tied to a department or to a group within your organization. So you may want to start thinking about how you want to create separate knowledge bases for each of your groups. Also, by default, the security within the new knowledge is at the knowledge base level. So you may want to have shared versus restricted knowledge bases, whereas a shared knowledge base can be commonly available to everybody. The restricted knowledge base could be for a specific group or a specific set of users based upon their user criteria. Talking about user criteria, quite often we have seen that a lot of our customers have ACLs and custom ACLs. So it's a good idea to do an inventory of your ACLs and plan how you want to convert them into user criteria. We will be doing a deep dive on user criteria in a following session. And if you have any additional questions, you can discuss about that at that time. Categories, while the system allows you to have multiple level categories, there is certainly no limit on that. What you will find is that from a usability perspective, 2 to 3 levels deep of categories is more than sufficient. Sometimes if you go 4 or 5 level deeps, your user might lose the thought, and it's not probably a good idea from a usability perspective. Also, if your particular use case requires article level security, you can enable roles, which by default in Knowledge V3 has been disabled, or use business rules. And we recently posted a blog on this, and you can refer to how to do that using that blog. So that's pretty much about what we had for today. In our upcoming sessions, we want to talk about, like I said, about user criteria. We are actually in the process of publishing a video. Probably it'll come out middle of next month about how to do user criteria as well in some particular use cases. But the next session for user criteria will go in depth about it. We also have planned a session for search. on, and then some tips that you can use to improve your search results. We have a blog out there, and we'll be covering most of the content and taking questions on that during the session. We are also working on making the home page customizable, and that's something that's in progress. So in a few weeks from now, we should have it out there, and we will be sharing some more details about how you can customize your Knowledge homepage in Knowledge V3. These are some of the topics that we have planned. We will be repeating some of the Knowledge V3 introductory stuff so that other users can also benefit from it, but we'll take up these special topics in our subsequent webinars. And if you have other questions and topics that you would like us to cover, we can definitely take them on, and through the community you can post your ideas and we'll take them on. So that's all that we had for today. We'll take a quick look. We don't have any additional questions on the community, so we'll give it a couple of more minutes. If not, then we'll wrap it up here.
Great, thank you. Let's all make sure that we do post questions on the community. And if you find this demo compelling, share it with your social circles and your colleagues. And again, we're waiting for other questions.
All right. I think the questions we will be expecting through the community, and we'll keep an eye out for those questions. You can always...
One more quick question. There's one that came through on the Google Hangout. It says, when the import of a Word doc occurs and there is an attached image, what metadata does it pull with the image? This is from Mike Stockman. Thank you, Mike.
So could you please repeat the question, Lisa?
When the import of a Word document occurs and there is an attached image, what metadata does it pull with the image?
Okay, so the typical metadata that comes with image, its size, for example, if it is PNG or if there is any additional metadata within the image itself. Sometimes images carry location. All those are pulled into the article. Pulled into the article meaning those are available for the search. But in general, the image is simply encoded and added to the article
as an attachment.
As an attachment, yeah.
Yeah, and then the names and all that, those are typically that come in with that.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll just look for some more questions that are posted on the community.
One question that has come from Julian, but it seems like to be specific to a response from Goran. So probably not for this session.
This is an example for the query business rule.
Right.
This is a response to what Goran had asked.
Right. So this is a good looking at the community, there is a post from Julian, and she's pointing to a query business rule, and you can do this query business rules for doing additional security based on custom fields on the knowledge, or based upon user specific location and all that. So it's a very good example. You can also look at our blog post on article security and filtering that was published, I believe, earlier this week, and that will give you some more context about what Julian is mentioning.
Great. We'll make sure that we post that URL into the community on the thread.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks so much, and we'll see you all in the community.
Thank you. Bye-bye.